Hey everyone, today I got to speak with Kevin of the San Antones. We talk about his love for reggae and ska, the reggae and ska culture, how he got involved in that, how he got involved in recording local bands and the way he supports local bands, and so much more. So please give it a listen, like, subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know who you want to hear from, and thank you again so much for all the support. Thanks.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you joining. So we'll just get started. I want to know when you knew that music was going to be a part of your life.
Oh man, uh, for as long as I can remember, uh, I was always that kid. I grew up on Southern rock and country, and my dad loved Leonard Skinner and the Outlaws and all that. I always listened to KZEP, so I would make little mixtapes of like them, like from a year being super young. I remember being like 5 years old and making little mixtapes of stuff I would record off of KZEP. And then fifth grade, it was the first year I could join band and joined band, started playing the trumpet. And, of course, when you start any instrument, you suck at it. And, being in fifth grade, my parents, and starting on trumpet, I was the youngest of four kids. So my family made me switch to, they asked the band director, what could I play that didn't make a lot of noise? And they told him percussion. And he'd have a little drum pad and a xylophone.
So that you
Mm,
switched to xylophone.
Yeah, I was forced. And which I guess was okay because I learned how to essentially play piano. Learned my music theory, the scales, and all that, and pretty much stuck with that from fifth to eighth grade. And uh, I was real nerdy. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I was a huge band nerd. I was really into playing my xylophone everywhere I went, and so I had the chance to move to. I was living in Shirts. I had the chance to move with my mom to the northeast side of San Antonio. Moved over there, and my brother played for a band called Cape Cat Sammy. It was like a rockabilly band, and he kind of turned me on to like punk rock and ska and all that. So I moved over there in seventh grade, and I was still in percussion, and I was still playing xylophone and auxiliary percussion. And I heard Rancid in the seventh grade, the Maxwell Murders, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And after hearing him that solo, I decided playing bass was I wanted to do that. And so I asked for a bass guitar for my 12th birthday, and my mom got me one of those little starter Yamaha kits, you
Yeah.
know?
It came with the
And
amp and stuff.
yep, amp, gig bag, little bass book, bass basics. I read that thing front to back a couple times, and I quit school band. Ninth grade came around. Um, I wasn't really too big into. I wasn't practicing every day. I wasn't, you know what I mean. I really loved to play bass and BMX, so
Nice.
I would, ride my bike till the sun went down, and then I would come home and read that bass book and practice the little skills that they had me do in there.
Nice.
And
So when you first started like playing bass, was that your practice? Was just like reading the book, or did you also like utilize any like tabs or
uh,
anything like that?
yeah, in the book they taught you how to read tabs and everything. It's pretty self-explanatory, anyways. But uh, yeah, and then so I started doing that. I started learning all these Rancid songs, and because like Rancid, and then quickly fell in love with the Bouncing Souls, and then ska music, like the third wave, Real Big Fish, Less Than Jake. I really loved like walking bass lines, and my stepbrother heard me playing one day, and he would hear me playing the same scale over and over. And he came in there and he taught me "Walk Don't Run" by the Ventures.
Okay.
It's Yeah. You
I
go
I've
ahead.
probably heard it, but I probably don't know that name.
Yeah. No, it's in the Sandlot. Like yeah, yeah, you definitely hear it. It's got a real iconic guitar riff like I'm not a best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get paid not to sing.
I recognize that though.
Yeah. Uh yeah, and he taught me that, and I was always going out to his shows and watching. I really loved the upright bass, man. Like seeing his band and seeing that guy play it and throw it around stage and all the chicks that he got, and was just I knew that's what I wanted to do, man. And yeah, got off and rolling and moved back. I got kicked out being a little shithead kid. So my mom kicked me out and I moved back in with my dad in freshman year, and I moved away a nerdy kid and I moved back like a full-fledged like punk rock attitude. You know, like people would come at me the same way. They would try to bully me the same way, and I was twice as big, twice as strong, and twice as mean, and it didn't go well for them.
So when did you start jamming like with other people?
When I moved back to Shirts, I moved back to Shirts, and bunch of my old friends, you know, one of my good friends started playing guitar, and his brother played drums, and I moved back and I started playing bass, and then started a little punk rock band called Beat My Guest. And yeah, and it was we played like our first show was at Sin 13 on a Tuesday at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We had to skip school to go play it.
Dang, I remember Sin 13 days.
Yeah. Did you ever know Blakey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think anyone did. Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Oh, you too, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
man, that dude's wild.
yeah, big time. But we were like 14 years old, and he was giving us shows, and of course, you know, it always came with some, you know. But yeah, it was a fun time. It was always a good time. We didn't know any better, you know.
Yeah, just trying to play. Just um do you remember like when y'all made that band, like what your like mindset was for writing? Was it just like the guitar player makes riffs, or were you just kind of winging it?
Yeah, basically the guitarist, and he was the guitarist and the singer. He would write all the songs at that time, and I would write my own bass part, which was, you know, just pretty much following the guitar,
Mm.
little walks up and downs here and there. Um, but yeah, it was for the most part just him. I didn't really start writing until I started playing guitar when I was right about 16.
Okay, so you went from bass to guitar. Did you already kind of like learn guitar just while you're kind of learning bass, or was that just something brand new?
Yeah, no, it was learning. I mean, like I knew my music theory and everything, and then I had uncles. So once I started like really digging into playing bass, and um, my parents got me acoustic bass because all my uncles play guitar, but no one plays bass. So every like holiday, we would all get together, and they would bring all their instruments, and we would all have like a big jam session. So uh, I kind of learned how to play guitar by asking them and watching them and following them, and plus like they would yell at me and, you know, like tell me this is a C chord, you need to be playing a C, you know.
Yeah,
And so which it's a good way to learn, you know.
yeah, for sure. Do you think that you going into band, or like having that knowledge of like reading music helped you when you were learning guitar and bass?
Yeah, because it was all just learning the getting the muscle memory down at that point, you know. And I never really took guitar seriously. I just kind of wanted to learn so to make me a better bass player, you know, because there was like I was starting to jam with like older kids and stuff like that, and they were coming up with like other chords that, and they would tell me like C major 7 13, and all these crazy things that I was like, well, I don't even know what to do on bass right there. And so I just kind of learned that, and then I would just teach myself. I would pick the brain of anybody that knew more than me, and even like people who didn't know as much as me. Like I always found playing with people who weren't as educated with music theory and things like that always had like a real unique way of finding like what works and what doesn't work. And I always found myself learning more wa- watching them and asking them, than I did asking someone that knew twice as much as me. And I still carry that mindset around where I'm never good enough. I'm always, I don't mean that like in a pity way. I mean that like there's always room to grow. There's always something you don't know and something you could do to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice too, especially just in the scene, just networking, talking, learning about each other, kind of what we're doing now. Always room to find something to grow from.
Yeah.
Um, so after when did you start getting involved with like ska or reggae bands?
When I was about 21, we played in a. We always changed the name. Like we were always. It was like it started off as W, then it was legalized W, and the I think the longest it was always late. Like, and that way they couldn't get mad at us.
Oh my god.
And yeah, so that was like punk and ska. We played at Zombies on Meat Metal Mondays and got booed off the stage.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I mean, like what we said yes to it, and they knew like we were. It was like a pop punk ska, like third wave ska, and there was nothing mean about it. I didn't think that any metalheads would like it, but we still got paid. They paid us early.
Man, that's pretty wild. Zombies is like a typically a metal place for anyone not in San Antonio.
Yeah, yeah.
That
It was
man,
the
that,
old. It was the old Zombies too. The one
oh,
next to Ruby Soho or
oh yeah,
have Midnight Ropaho.
yeah. That I think I went there like once, and then to their newer location. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, that's cool. I mean, I didn't really play in any metal bands or anything like that to really go frequent Zombies, but
yeah,
uh, yeah, they always had that B films going on. Those are kind of cool, just in the
yeah.
background.
And it's now they're doing like more reggae, or they were having like reggae nights.
Yeah. What are some like venue or what's like your favorite venue to play at here in town?
Hondros.
Honjo's? Yeah, Honjo's
Yeah.
is cool.
Uh, yeah.
Um, so right now you're in the San Antones.
Yep.
Yeah, man. I see a lot of your promo. You work with Mr. Five, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah. That actually, he actually dissolved a sonority music group recently. Um, we actually kind of low key like took a hiatus
Yeah.
for a little bit. Kind of regroup. Uh, he he had put all this together, and like when we started the San Antones, we asked him to like be like the manager, because he's always been real good to us, and he's a really smart. He's I mean, like he took on a lot of responsibility with the San Antones, and can't thank him enough for that, and really feeling it without him and everything. But yeah, he started uh we started the San Antones, asked him to be the manager. He started the sonority music group and started trying to get people signed up, you know what I mean? And it's a different day and age that a lot of people can do that on their own and have their own idea of how things should go. And Five was really good at what he did, and we just kind of like said, you know, here's our music, you know, bring it, you know, and he did what he did. And then the beginning of this year, he put a sonority music group show together,
Mhm.
and he started, um, and it was really hard to talk him into it, and to talk him back into coming back in the scene and everything for with everything that he went through with everybody else. Um, he was pretty much done with music, and then when we asked him to come back, he was just like that. It took us, you know, like convincing him. So did that. He started the show, and then COVID hit, and um, it was pretty. I was pretty heartbreaking for him. I can imagine. You know, we never really talked about it or anything like that. He just kind of slowly left, you know, and walked back, and still on great terms, still a good guy and everything, and totally understand why. Because I mean, we as a reggae band were starting to get some flack during the Black Lives Matter for not posting enough about Black Lives Matter. And then when we started posting, we weren't posting the right things. So I think that really got to Five's head, you know, or that was like part of the reason why. It was just that, like, no matter what we do or what we try to do, like, we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. And he was just like, I'm kind of sick of all the negativity and everything like that. And he was our Facebook guy. He was our guy
Yeah.
that handled every like Gio and I just did the music, and Gio did a lot of the online and the promo and stuff like that. I was really like, I really had it easy because like I just wrote, record, and give it to Gio and them, and he sends it off to Rod. Gio sends it to Roger. Five handles the promo. I was just the music and the funds, you know. So, but now that we took a hiatus, when we went through a bunch of changes, like I bought a house, moved, and all kinds of stuff, man. So now we're getting back on it. We actually finished our first single yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we're going like more rock steady.
Okay.
Yeah,
That that should be real cool. Um,
yeah,
yeah, man. Just to touch on Five real quick, too. When I lived in Austin and Young Costello first started, like he really like gave us a lot of support too. So, um, yeah, man, he was definitely a cool dude. So, kind of, it sucks to hear he's not, I guess, involved in music, but you know, hopefully once COVID gets under control and stuff, we'll see what the future
yeah.
holds.
Well, it was also his kids too.
Okay.
Like he like they were he has kids in high school and with the band and everything. They were pretty prominent in the band, and it was taking a lot of time away from that to do what we needed him to do, and that was like the biggest reason why he left.
Got you.
You know, and because he said his words, his exact words were, you know, I'll never get these times again.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so but
Respect.
yeah.
So and then another quick little story. I remember so Young C, we also kind of took a break and I started a band called Starlighter and I was looking for a drummer and like I had hit up Geo, but we just like or well Geo responded to me, but we could never meet up, so I never actually got a chance to like jam with them. That would have been pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard for me to get with Geo.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. Oh, I love Geo, man. He's a good dude.
Yes. So you were mentioning y'all finished the single and you write the music, you send it to him. So like, when you write, are you writing the complete songs or are you just sending kind of like a generalized idea?
Uh it'll either start with a chord progression or a bass line, and I'll do that, and I'll record that to a metronome, and I'll try to do I'll try to do a beat, but half the time I end up just going back to the metronome,
Yeah.
and it'll be a super rough idea. I'll send it to Geo. He'll do his thing and he'll send it back, and then I'll change what I want, change what I need. Most of the time when he sends back a drum beat, I change the bass line, of course, and it's just kind of like going back and forth. But now we have it to where it's like I do the basic idea, send it to him. He does just like a super basic drum track on like whatever beat he wants to do, like one drop or flyers or steppers or anything like that, and then he'll send it back, and then I'll start shaping it from there. And then once I got it to where like I'm finals with everything, then I'll send it back to him and he'll put on his final drums. And then at that point we'll either send it off to Roger or keep tweaking it here and there before we send it to Raj. But
Nice. And you're doing this from you're doing all your parts from your studio?
yep. And then
Uh,
Gio's got his parts over at his studio.
nice. So like when did you start like investing in your studio?
After Judavon, with Judavon Roots, we recorded that EP,
Mhm.
and it cost like $3,000. And because like we paid a really good guy, and I was not, I didn't like him. I liked him, but I didn't like how he produced. Like he didn't listen to reggae, and he didn't listen to us. And he was a bass player too, so I always got that, I know more than you vibe. I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna do it like I'm playing bass on this.
Yeah.
And which with the EP, I was like, okay, I, you know more than me. I trust you, And then the EP got released, and I was like, I kept telling him, I'm like, I'm not happy with it. I want more low end. I don't want more, I want it fatter. It's a fat like 808 sound for one all like hip hop.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't grasp on it. And then we paid him all that money, and it was like, damn, like I could have just invested all that money into like the studio, and uh I do HVAC. I live alone. I don't have kids. I make pretty good money, so it's just like easy for me to finance something on Zounds. Like we got that M32 $4,000 board, $333 payments for a whole year. It wasn't fun.
Yeah, man. Well, that's awesome to hear that you like invested in yourself. So, when you started that, like, how did you learn or teach yourself about recording and using the equipment that you got?
YouTube, and I would do the same thing with music. Like anybody that knew more than me, I would ask him, like what's a compressor do, what's a gate do, and like what's all these things do. And still like I'm not I would I'm not confident enough to charge someone to mix and master something. I'm confident enough to record and capture, but I don't think I know enough about the world of mixing and mastering enough to actually, you know, do that and have someone compensate me for me and my time and my knowledge when I don't really have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whenever I record someone, I always tell someone like, hey, would you mind if I, gave it a shot at mixing and mastering just so I could learn, and then if y'all want to go with someone else, by all means, here's your waves, but I'm just going to let y'all know I'm going to do this for my practice on my own.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. I think it's really awesome of you to, I guess, understand that that you can't charge yet without that sort of knowledge. Like, that's really cool to hear. Is that your next steps for your studio?
No, not really. I mean, I kind of started the studio to help people out too. Like I started recording everyone I could for free, and I I stopped doing that because when you charge someone, they come with their A game because they're paying for it. You know what I mean? And when you're like, hey, I'd like to help you out, and record your band, they come in there, okay, let's record this song. We're not done writing it yet, but let's record it, and start getting those like long days where you get nothing done, and because no one's prepared, or anything like that. But I still love to help people out and record and capture, when they come prepared. I just have that talk with them beforehand, like, hey, this is what I need you to do if you want me to do this, and if you don't walk in the door with what I need, then I'm walking out that door as soon as you walk in it, and it's like,
Yeah,
um,
just very transparent, very just straightforward.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, for sure. I mean, especially you take your time to record and your equipment, so super understandable. Um, so what? So I know you're doing some new San Antones. You just finished the new single. Like, are you gonna work on an EP or a full length, or like what is the future right now for you in the San Antones?
we're uh we're gonna be releasing some singles here and there, all up until they're all released, and then we're gonna come out with the full length album. That the plan is to have that on vinyl and only on vinyl.
Mm.
Because all the singles will be released digitally, and then so the only way you'll be able to get that listen to that album is just on vinyl.
Man, that's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
it's gonna
what
be in, it's gonna be entitled Guac Steady.
Guac Steady?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I can get behind that idea. um, so what do you like? Vinyls are real popular with like reggae and rock steady bands, ska bands. Like, what do you think the appeal is for listeners and fans of reggae to like purchase vinyls?
um, they sound better. It's uh I don't know. I think a lot of the people that listen to this type of music and everything like that, because we're recording digitally, but we're mixing and mastering to tape, and we're trying to have that best of both worlds feel of, like you not necessarily we want to sound exactly like we're coming from the 1960s, but we want to get pretty close to it. And getting close as we can would also be including putting it on vinyl. And I know a lot of my friends that listen to those music, they'd rather listen to vinyl, and also the DJs. We get a lot of DJs asking, like vinyl only DJs asking for like Kung Fu.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Uh,
say.
yeah. So mainly for Carlos and Stephanie.
Hell yeah! Shout out to Kung Fu Sound System.
Yeah.
Um, what are some of your favorite like reggae ska bands out right now?
Um, I really love like classic, like like right now modern would like have to say like Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra, of course, Melbourne Ska Orchestra. Um, but I've what you catch me listening to on the daily is like stuff like Dragon Lee and the or Byron Lee and the Dragonaires, Alton Ellis, um, the Scotalites, of course, Baba Brooks, uh, but and then like also like classic reggae, like Winston Hussey and yeah, Phyllis Dillon, the Techniques, the Pioneers. I would have to say like the Pioneers is probably one of my favorite. I really love like what they do with their vocals.
Very classic, very
Yeah.
classic bands. When so I know we talked a little earlier about you listening to Rancid and kind of the third wave, but when did you really start getting into the older classic like ska and reggae bands?
When we got into reggae, Geo, we were playing punk rock, that band fell apart. Gio got into reggae and made this CD. And before that, all I ever heard, the oldest thing I ever heard was like Bad Manners, some like two tone,
Yeah.
and I didn't know anything before that wasn't punk rock. So Gio made the CD, and it had like Buju Banton, Rita Marley, Inner Circle, and we listened to it, and that's what got us into reggae. So that opened our eyes to all the modern bands. But the more we learned about reggae, the more we learned it was more of a culture than a music, and that went hand in hand with punk rock, and it just kind of made me fall in love with it. So I fell in love with it, and I just started researching, and then so I found Dove, from the 1980s and 70s, and the further back I went, and then I found, classic traditional Jamaican ska, and like Desmond Decker and like all that. Uh, and I just like the more, and when I found out it was a culture, I found out I was like, you have to do it right. You know what I mean? You have to do it with respect and know what you're doing in that world, because it's a tough world to be in. And so I came at it like that, and we started playing reggae and everything. But I just, I fell in love with reggae. I already love ska. So once I found out Rocksteady, and then really dove into like the history of all that music, and how like ska started, from like the 40s and 50s, big bands that, they were all jazz musicians, and Jamaican jazz pretty much, and big dance halls. And then like the 1960s came around, and you started seeing like the MCs and stuff, and the singers coming on stage, and then yeah, it's just I loved it. Yeah, long story long. I loved it, so I just, the more I researched back, the more I fell in love with it.
Yeah, that's great to hear. You know, like, but just based on this whole our conversation so far, like it sounds like you really want to understand like what you're doing. Like that's what I'm gathering from everything. Like let's like going in the history, reading your books, even starting bass, like reading your bass book. So that's really cool. And I'm not sure if a lot of people even really do that because like you said, like the culture to ska and reggae's um like very important. What do you think like the future is for ska and reggae?
Eesh. Uh, it's I think it's hard to say. It could, I see more and more people falling in love with it and learning about the culture and learning and doing their homework about it and finding out. But then I also see um a lot of people, it's like, doing their own thing with it and taking away what they want. And I always say, in music there's no rules. You know what I mean? It's a form of expression. There's no right or wrong way to do anything, so uh in my perfect future, I would love to see more old school bands return, and a lot of people, more people do the older vintage reggae and stuff like that. And but that's my perfect future, and a lot of the friends like Saltwater Slide and Capistrano and all the reggae rockers, they bring a good crowd. They bring a good following, and it's bring a lot more of a following than any of the roots bands. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Those dudes I see a lot of like promo for on Facebook and stuff like that too. Like another, especially Saltwater. I think they even have like their own group and stuff right on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what do you? So, what are your feelings on ska music? Do you think there's a fourth wave? Do you think there's already happened, is gonna happen, or is it just kind of ska just like done with waves, or just in general? Like, what do you feel about ska now in
I think
2020?
I think the fourth wave is gonna be something like what the Aquabats are doing right now. More synth, less horns. You know,
Okay.
like more of like a new wave, I guess. I'm not sure. I'm not too hip on the outside of local bands. I'm not too hip on any new ska bands, but from what I've heard, it all sounds pretty much like third wave.
Yeah.
You know, besides like Rat King Cole, they bring the classics back.
Yeah, I love those dudes. I had the honor to play a show with them, like at a jazz fest. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So how can people like get in touch with you as far as like wanting to record? Are you open for that, or do you have like a business page, something?
Yeah, we got Alamo KNG on Facebook, on Instagram. You can hit us up through there. You can also reach out directly to me on Facebook. Um, I'd I'd love to help you out. I'd love to, anything I can do to help out local musicians, and so I know how expensive it is. I know how hard it is, and a lot of the people that put in the work deserve, to be rewarded and not come be slapped in the face with $1,000, bill to record 5 songs and stuff like that. So, and we have, you just come talk to us, tell us what you got, and I would love to help you out. Alamo KNG on Facebook and Instagram.
That's amazing. What about how can they follow you on any social media?
I'm on Instagram under the San Antones and Alamo KNG, and then Facebook, Kevin Douglas Groeneveld.
Hell yeah. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you being a part of this. Definitely gonna hit you up about some recordings, and yeah, man, we'll go from there. We'll catch up next time. So again, I really appreciate it, and hope you have a good night.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, later, dude.
See ya.
I see the jam room in the background.
Yeah, that's half of the Alamo KNG studio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the. It's just get a little. This is the drum set, and go a little further, and you got the upright,
Dang.
and that's like all the bass corner over there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is that Fender like an Aerodyne bass?
Yeah, yeah, that was actually the my first bass guitar I got when I was 15 years old, man.
Oh man, like how do you like it?
I love it, man. I played on it for like it was my only bass for probably about 12 years.
Jeez. Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's done the work.
yeah, yeah. I uh I I shopped around and I got a new bass and retired that one, so now no more live shows for that guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's already got 12 years. Should get
Yeah.
retirement.
Yeah.